Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Indigene Digital Summit and to the panel discussion on elevating MLR review, commercial ops, reviewers, and regulator insights on emerging trends. My name is Sameer Lal, and I head the Enterprise Medical Business Unit at Indigene. Before I introduce my esteemed panel members to you, I thought it'd be useful to provide you a little bit more context with which we are approaching this panel discussion. You'll agree it's never been a more exciting time for our industry. Coming out of the pandemic, the credentials for innovation have only got strengthened manifold. With a slew of launches in rare and orphan diseases, novel mechanism of actions, including gene therapy, we are riding a crest of a wave. And fueling a lot of this growth has been the impact of digital, including now Gen AI. It's not been impactful on the industry, but all our stakeholders, patients, HCPs, payers. And going digital has also meant that there's been a huge expansion on the volume of content as well as the format, the way the messages have to be disseminated, albeit in a compliant manner. Our discussion today will focus on a critical enabler for all stakeholders to receive content that is accurate, appropriate, and contextual. And the aim of today's panel is to discuss how this enabler, MLR Review and Approval, can play an even larger role to drive change, perhaps even proactively, and also explore how technology can play a role to transform how content is reviewed and approved. With that background, I want to introduce my fellow panelists to you. They represent three diverse functions from the industry: commercial operations, medical affairs, as well as regulatory ad promo. Let's start with you, Vincenzo Bartoli. He's the Global Head of Digital Customer Excellence at AstraZeneca. Welcome, Vincenzo.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for inviting me to this very interesting session.
Thanks. Jamie Blaze, she's the Head of Medical and Healthcare Excellence at Janssen. Welcome, Jamie.
I'm here. Happy to be part of the panel. Thanks for having me.
And finally, Mao Roy Chaudhary. She's the Global Head of Regulatory Ad Promo Aesthetics at AbbVie. Welcome, Mao.
Thank you for having me. This is my favorite topic, so I'm really looking forward to this discussion.
Thank you all of you for spending your valuable time with us. And folks, the approach that we are taking at the panel is going to be more philosophical and strategic rather than tactical. And what we hope to arrive at some incremental as well as disruptive ideas to transform such an important function. But the ultimate aim, all of us agreed, was we want to do what is right for the patient. With that, let's start. And Vincenzo, I want to start with you, you are representative of our commercial teams, brand teams, and love to hear perspectives, mindset with which you think we should be approaching content creation. And how do we see the process as well as reviewers as a key partner to the entire approach?
Yeah, thank you, Samir. That's an incredibly important topic today for the pharma company. But as you said very well, North Star is how we can really bring value to the patient, accelerating the knowledge for healthcare professionals about new medicine and better treatment for the patient. So how to do that in a compliant way? By delivering content that are relevant to the clinical decision, are approved, are memorable in the way we are delivering, and are also respecting the different need for different customers to consume content in the way they can feel more appropriate for their understanding and their way of consuming content. This is like a new approach. It's a truly customer-centric approach. We have been talking about customer centricity for a while in the pharma industry, environment. But I see that the most respectful way to look at our customer and see what they want is to really deliver content that are made by using the data and insights that are making this content more relevant for their job, which is saving life and better treat the patient. I would say that is not like something that we have landed as a, I think, at least organization, but also as a sector in the pharma industry. But we are moving fast, and would be great. I'm sure that we will learn each other a lot during the session today.
Thank you, Vincenzo. You brought about such great perspective, right? Customer centricity, being respectful, ultimately is all about saving life, right? Jamie, perhaps you want to respond to the initial pieces from Vincenzo, and also from a medical affairs perspective, right? What's the approach and how do you ensure alignment, especially as you start the entire process of approval itself? I'd love to hear your side.
Yeah, similar to Samir, how you introduced everybody, the healthcare ecosystem is rapidly evolving. It started at the beginning of the pandemic and it continues to evolve very quickly. Well, so is the role of medical affairs. There's a much greater dependence on more innovative evidence generation right now, advanced analytics, optimized clinical trials, collaborative research, implementation research. It feels like right now the role of medical affairs is ever expanding and ever evolving. And a lot of those the generation of that data and the dissemination of that data really falls on the medical affairs professional to provide. And as we know, our external stakeholders in the medical communities and in the healthcare systems depend on unbiased scientific knowledge and real-world evidence to help support their clinical decision-making. And it's really incumbent on the medical affairs group to partner with the business to provide that meaningful and impactful medical and scientific content to the team. So ideally, medical affairs is partnering with the business ahead of the review process so that they're really coming to the table to help provide the scientifically robust evidence from validated sources, which is going to help ensure that the materials being developed with the business are positioned for success throughout the review process.
Thank you. And Jamie, I love that piece about the whole approach has to be about partnership, right? Each of us play a very critical role, right? And then if there's a healthy partnership, then it elevates the whole process itself, right? So we'll pick up on that thread again. From your perspective, Maup, right, the regulatory lens, and what have you done to encourage your team members to do things proactively, right? How do you engage with colleagues on the commercial side as well as other reviewers to make sure that the entire process is of least disruption?
So much. I feel like so much has evolved, especially through COVID with us all using digital. What we realize is that we're no longer reviewing pieces or promotion that is on flat PDFs, right? What we're reviewing is dynamic material, and we have to view it the way our audience members are going to view it. So if patients are viewing it, let's say, on social media, on TikTok, if that's where they're going to look for their medical information, our reviewers also have to be adept at reviewing those types of materials. And so I really encourage all my reviewers, everybody in Reg Promo, all reviewers in this space, to get on these mediums, actually learn the functionality, perhaps engage with their marketers, perhaps engage with people like on Vincenzo's team to really understand what can we use, what is the real estate on these digital platforms that we can use to meet regulations, to make sure that we're compliant. As we know, some platforms might not allow for linking, which might not allow for you to get to the PI. So what can we use within the platform that can help us get to the PI or the approved label? So it's really imperative for all the reviewers to partner with commercial, with medical, with all the reviewers, and really truly understand the functionality, because just the modality from going from a flat PDF to now digital has completely changed.
Very interesting, and I'd like to have everybody's provide a little bit more opinion on the format piece, right? Because sometimes we think that Insta, as a lot of our younger colleagues call it, perhaps all of us are a little older, right? Or if you look at videos on TikTok, or if you look at videos in any other format on YouTube, they are videos in one way, but the way they have to be produced for each of these platforms are so much unique and different, right? So very good point, Mao. You have to look at it from the lens of the ultimate recipient. Vincenzo, I see you nodding your head.
Yeah.
You want to provide a little perspective on the video and any other formats, right?
Yeah, no, that's a bit like a bit of the learning we have been learning in the last couple of years. With digital, we have really the power to understand what is working better, what is really providing content in a way our customer can consume. But we need also to understand that content and the channel you are delivering or the format you are delivering are so intimately integrated that really is asking for a different MLR process and approach. So Today we are talking about like meta content, which is a bit more what a specific block of content or micro content or molecular content can provide in terms of experience when delivered in a different channel. And how we can make sure that we are in control of the customer experience in a way we can make sure that that content is making a different impact to the customer in terms of consumption, relevance, and most important, another kind of lesson we are learning, timing is becoming another important dimension. The time in which we are delivering a content to a customer should be really claiming for a different dynamic in the MLR process, the internal process, not considering what is happening outside pharmaceutical company with the regulatory body that of course are controlling and are challenging and are making sure that all the contents are respecting the rules, but timing and the timing manner in which we can really deliver the content can make the difference for the physician and for the patient who then can benefit from the treatment.
Perfect. Did Jamie now want to respond to Vincent's thought?
Well, I think the timing is critical, right? We have a humongous amount of data being generated and published daily. It's impossible for physicians to consume and understand all of that evidence and be able to, make the appropriate clinical decisions. So one is when our data is available, we need to be able to get it in the hands of physicians. And two, we need to get it in a way where they can consume that evidence in the way that it's most comfortable and most natural for them. So I agree with everything Viscendo has just shared.
Same, I agree. Timing is absolutely key because if we don't get on these digital platforms and share the information at the right time, there's going to be misinformation out there, right? Patients will be posting on their own, physicians will be posting on their own. And as you manufacturers that own the raw data, it almost feels like it's our ethical responsibility to get that information out there in a truthful and balanced manner. So it's imperative to make the review process flexible so that we can get those, timely information out as soon as possible and make sure that the reviewers are ready to be flexible, especially when there's like key events coming up. I know years ago when we would be planning for, let's say, a holiday, let's say it's Mother's Day, we would plan maybe 3, 4, 5 months ahead of time. But now there's current events happening where we won't have those 3, 4, 5 months, right? And so we have to ensure there's flexibility built into our review systems so that we can review in a timely fashion so that we can get the right information out for the patient.
Let's continue the theme of digital that we started to explore right now. One thing which digital allows us to do is drive analytics to the end of what we call as personalization of content, right? In the past, we would create one piece of content, and that's exactly what it was, one piece of content. But with the advent of modular content, omni-channel, the opportunities just become humongous, right? So one is, Vincent called about the atom-sized, bite-sized piece of content, almost like a Lego block, which can reassemble different pieces of content to give a personalized experience to a physician. So all well said and done, right? But it comes with this appropriate challenges as well. But how do you make sure it still is compliant, is still well balanced, and all of that? So Mo, if I'll start from your perspective, right? From a regulatory ad promo lens, how do you make sure there are business rules, right, for all of these disparate pieces, and how do they fit together and make sure we're still able to provide the best personalized customer experience to the end customer, making sure that we are still within the regulatory parameters?
Well, I think there's still a lot more work to be done, but I think what has really been helping is marketing and the reviewers partnering very far ahead in the front end to understand what are the different bite pieces of content, how can they go together. I think too often we see materials later in the process where we waste time, money, agency time, and it's not helpful for anyone. So I think what we've seen shifting is a lot more of that partnership happening in the front end. And then you see the downstream effects, you've seen the positive effects later on. But we've seen a positive shift, but I think there's much more that can be done there.
For sure. I think the story yet to play out, especially on modular content, for sure, on omnichannel as well. Jamie, from your perspective, perhaps it's easier if the content is more medical in nature as opposed to promotional. But from your vantage point, how would you approach omnichannel content creation, modular content creation from a reviewer's perspective, make sure we are still within those boundaries? At the same time, the time to market and personalization is not affected.
I think partnership, what Mo said, was important. Partnership upfront. And I think as we start to create sort of these bite-sized pieces or these modules, focus on creating these claims or content libraries, right? So these things are already linked. So from a medical perspective, a lot of the time you spend linking the right references and doing all that background work when all of those things are already linked up and all of the sources of information and data and references are already embedded into these content libraries. It decreases a lot of the time, right? One, your MLR reviewers are already aligned to the references that are going to be employed within these content modules, but secondly, they're already linked. So when you start to build the content, you build in a whole lot of efficiencies and you create a lot of consistencies across the materials that you're going to be launching. So I think there's still a lot of work to be done. I don't know that anyone solved it perfectly yet, but I love to see conversations like this to see where everybody else is, because it truly could be a real game changer when done well.
And Vincent, I want to spotlight on yourself, because I think your organization's done quite a bit on omnichannel, right? So I'd love to hear yours.
Yeah, a couple of reflections. Maybe it's obvious, but like cross functionality since the beginning of the creation of the content is key. So like traditionally, like the process for the creation of a new content was a bit like inline. So a new idea, then a mock-up, MLR, medical approval, and like until the end to like the way we can display content. We are now working a bit in a circular way in which we are agreeing cross-functionally what is explicitly the purpose of the content, what we want to get with the customer in terms of experience and delivery of scientific content. And we have also the opportunity, we are not there yet, but like we want to integrate a bit the data of the final consumption of the customer in a sort of feedback conversation with the cross-functional team, including the regulatory approval, the medical team, to really see if we have got the goal of creating a different experience, or we need to rethink the quality of the content, the quality of the channel, the specific information we are sharing, because we are not able to really provide new information and relevant information to our customers. So again, digital is making everything a bit, I would say, complex or interesting, because we can really measure more, and measuring more, we have more accessibility to data that can really change the rule to delivering content to our customers.
Awesome. The recurring theme I heard from all of you guys was on being proactive, then the partnership piece. Mo, did you want to chime into what you heard from Vincent?
Yeah, I love that we can measure more, and I think it's very important to feed that information back to the reviewers so then they understand how important it is to have that partnership or understand the functionality and the impact of the work that they're doing. So I applaud Vincenzo and his team for getting those types of metrics, and it's wonderful as reviewers to be able to learn how impactful it is.
Let's continue the theme we touched upon, right? Digital allows you to measure, allows personalization, but also forces us to change our standard ways of thinking. Vincenzo talked about the linear approach that you go in the standard manner. Is there a circular approach? But I'd love to talk a little bit about with you guys about alternate approaches of creation of content. This approach which folks have tried around agile pods. So you create a pod of reviewers, agency, marketeers, and they create and review as they go along, right? So instead of being a linear process, again, I'm sure the results have been mixed, but from your vantage point, what other approaches have you seen, which folks are trying? And again, victory has not been declared yet, but nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? Anybody want to share any thoughts on different approaches on content and approval?
Well, we have, obviously, I think a lot of people are exploring sort of the Agile way of working. We actually have sort of what we call sort of a trifecta model. So we have our traditional copy approval live meetings. We do have Agile pods in place for certain brands. And then so we kind of go from level of complexity of an Agile pod, be looking at the most complex sort of problems and innovations, and then our traditional copy approval. But we've completed what we consider a more flexible approach to copy approval, which is really just a regulatory sign-off. And so these are meant for materials that are, looking for reapprovals, or there's maybe an update to the USPI. And so it doesn't require a full live meeting. It definitely doesn't even require a full MLR review. And so we've been launching that type of opportunity with our company. We've seen a dramatic decrease in the number of the average days to approval in these pieces. And what I think more importantly it doesn't do is it doesn't really clog up the funnel of pieces that have to go into a traditional copy approval and delay other pieces from that review. So we've seen an exponential increase in the number of materials that are kind of going through this more flexible review, and we're seeing a dramatic impact on our average days to approvals for those pieces. So I share that as an opportunity for those of you who haven't done that yet.
If I may comment on that, this is actually what we are also experiencing in AstraZeneca. So a possible way to tackle this challenge is to create a template that can really make sure that we are not reinventing the wheel across different brands, different therapeutic area. We can really, still have like a dynamic, agile a way of creating content, but leveraging on a solid and consistent templatization, if I may say, of the way in which we are reviewing content, delivering content on the platform, and then understanding the impact. This, like from a technology standpoint, but also from like a collaboration standpoint with the external agency, I would say is one of the most important challenge for us, I think.
I would like to add to that. I love what both Jamie and Vincenzo said. And I think there's two things. We don't know what we don't know, right? It's constantly evolving. And then we always want to put our resources where they provide the most value. So we want to put our legal reviewers where they provide the most value. Same thing with regulatory, same thing with medical. And so I love the approach that Jamie mentioned of having the reviewers that provide the value actually review that piece and having that agility built into it. But I would also suggest having an SOP or work instructions that are living so that you constantly update it as you learn more. Because let's say we do change a process to have only regulatory reviewing certain items, but then we have an aha moment and we think, oh my gosh, legal should review this content as well. We should have that flexibility built into that process. So I would love to see a combination of both of those.
Very interesting. Well, let's continue this same chain of thought. Is with digital, with ways of working, there's also the element of what technology and automation can bring to the table, right? And with Gen AI, again, still to be proven. But is there opportunity, for example, of claims to be in a database so that this approved claims can be used by agencies rather than us going back from first base every time, right? Similarly, perhaps there's opportunity for using technology for fact check and so on. A lot of this is still early days. But what kind of experiments are you guys seeing from your vantage point of use of technology and automation in the review process itself?
That's a very interesting one. If I may start sharing what we are trying to do, it's a very experimental field of application for MLR. There are different use cases we are now following up. One is using generative AI to accelerate MLR process, still considering different dimension of the content. Who is the customer we are going to deliver the content? What is the regulatory environment in a specific market? What is like also the specific brand situation in terms of knowledge, awareness, and usage in the market. So putting all together how we can really generate a content that still is respecting and reflecting the need of the customer to get new information, but I'll try to accelerate and have some automation in the way we are generating the content. Still, we think that there are different checkpoints where human being, they need to take decision in order also to create a kind of continuous improvement process in the way we are using this technology. But this is very, very, very interesting. Another thing that we are trying to do is how the same content can be delivered to different customers according to different customer profile and different data points we can capture today about customer experience. So this will be super important when we try to be respectful of the customer need, or be treated like a single person with a specific need, but still delivering content that are fitting with a brand strategy. Because like the problem of the personalization is that you may lose control about what really are showing about your brand, and maybe there are other information that are strategically important to deliver. So how to make sure that we are balancing the strategy with the customer need for the personalization. So that is something where I think the generative AI can help to set up, but still I think that new capabilities of marketing, medical, and regulatory MLR responsible will be required in the pharmaceutical company very soon.
Yeah, I think that humans plus AI could be so powerful, humans plus automation. And, I haven't seen much of this yet, but I would love to see a world where the reviewers can use something like ChatGPT to just query what is the issue, what is the wealth of data out there regarding enforcement around the world on a specific issue before making a decision. I've seen it at other companies where they're starting to use AI for clinical trial data so that patients or physicians can search it very easily, the breadth of data that exists in the world, to see what would be appropriate for them. I would love to see more of that shifted to the review world as well. So I think there's great hope and potential for us in the review area.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think you can't take the human element out of these things. These are highly compliant industry that we work in. I actually think AI is probably going to have the biggest impact on the development and review of these promotional materials that we'll probably have seen in the last 20 years. I think the possibilities here are endless. And I think it's not uniquely just, AI generated content or AI assisted review, but really within the technology stacks that we're going to kind of build around AI capabilities that are really going to see a major shift in how we do things. So it's, in combination with the claims libraries, with the digital asset, with the modular content. And I think all in, if we're using this technology properly, we're going to see a dramatic shift in how we do make and review copy approval.
And from our vantage point, because we have the benefit of seeing the industry from outside in, we're seeing a very good, healthy skepticism, if I may call it that, right? If you'd asked me 4, 5, 6 months ago, nobody wanted to be involved anything Gen AI, right? But now folks are saying that at least let me try and test and experiment to form a view one way or the other. But I also feel that sometimes we keep technology at a completely different level of expectation. So I give you an example of self-driving cars. We have one accident of a self-driving car and it makes headline news. Do we know how many deaths are caused by human driving car in a single day? Right, so the barriers are completely different, right? The expectations are completely different. Again, some of it is healthy skepticism, But I think we all have to work towards getting the trust factor involved, right? So anyway.
Yeah, and Samir, like we live in a very risk-averse environment, right? So
Yeah.
where there's probably more human error that happens if a machine makes that error and a non-compliant or something goes out of our organizations, we're held responsible for that one decision. So especially when you're going to release the reins on something like AI, we better be sure that it's zero chance or zero probability that the wrong thing is going to go out the door. So it's just the way our industry is built.
I agree. You were saying, Vincenzo?
No, I was thinking, and I totally agree with James. Again, like generative AI is a very promising opportunity. I still think that the first step for all of us will be to invest a bit more in understanding the data coming from the current model we can use to deliver interaction and content, because this will open also to us the opportunity to understand our machine learning, because at the end, generative AI is a very evolved machine learning data crunching approach can become credible and trustable when used to produce a content. So we need to generate a kind of environment in which the data are leading the conversation about the content, the quality of the content, the need for a specific MLR approval process, and with that we can also have the right framework and test bed for then test some advanced generative AI. Because otherwise, like, it's putting something very innovative, somewhat dangerous, in a place where we are not getting the right capability to then understand how to use this scale.
Agree. Well.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that I know that AI can be scary, but that's why we always partner with a human, right? And my hope is that using AI, that it's going to accelerate a lot of the work that we do. And AI is only going to be as strong as the amount of information we feed into it. So once again, we go back to the pre-work. We have to do the pre-work to feed all the right information into AI. And then if we always partner with a human, where I'm visioning is when it comes to review, then we don't need it to be foolproof. There will always be a human with it to be able to assess whether or not the information is correct. But I hope that it will help accelerate decision making.
Yep, human in the loop is the right approach, at least for now. Right. With that, I'm going to shift the discussion in a different direction. And Maub, I'm looking at you. One of the pieces, what we had tried to do in the panel discussion is get a regulator's viewpoint. Unfortunately, we couldn't get colleagues from FDA or PMCPA join. But Maub, from your side, right, what can we do more as an industry to inform, educate proactively our health authorities, right? So they can create guidelines that are practical, relevant, impactful, right? So even as we wait for them to do things, what are things that we could do to help educate, inform?
Absolutely. So we know that health authorities are doing a tremendous amount of research, but they are resource constrained, right? And as an industry, we just don't have the opportunity to wait. We have to keep moving. We have to do what the patients need. So I think there's huge opportunity for us to try and learn. And we know that whatever we're going to do, it's always going to be the best thing for the patient, right? We're always going to make that choice that is the best thing for the patient. And by trying and doing and learning, we can then use that information to inform the health authorities, whether it's by writing white papers, by setting examples, by having great experiences from patients and getting that feedback back as Vincenzo's group is capturing. But I think there's tremendous opportunity for us to inform health authorities so that they can make, more informed decisions as they create guidances, as they, create regulation. There's tremendous amount of opportunity there for us.
Well said. Jamie, Vincenzo, any thoughts from your side?
Well put.
No, really, yeah. I cannot agree more. It's a great opportunity to build a trustable and credible relationship with the regulatory body, with the agency, knowing that whatever we can do together to accelerate the knowledge of new treatment and new medicine can bring more value to the patient. Respecting these two principles, I think that we can share data, we can share approach, and we will find a different environment in which we can really deliver a different MLR process, more effective, faster, and more impactful.
Good. So as I'm looking at the clock as well as approach towards the end, one of the things I wanted to get quick reflections from each one of you. We all agree that whatever we do, whether we create content, approve content, ultimate benefit is for the patient. But from your individual perspectives, what would you define as a personal North Star as far as the review approval process is concerned, right? So I'll start from you, Vincenzo, and then go to Jamie and Mao.
Yeah, the North Star, we cannot forget about the patient, because at the end, the patient is the reason why we are delivering new medicine and science to our customers and healthcare professionals. From an internal standpoint, MLR approach for digital can really bring efficiency, making sure that we are investing right level of resources in accelerating the science, and again, to my previous point, bringing value also in the conversation with the scientific conversation with our customers. This is the most important thing, because really we are now trying in the pharma industry to structure a different process for the MLR in order to get that level of quality we need to be credible and trustable. But we are moving in an environment in which everyone can find everything on the web. So how to become more credible and really help from a cultural shift and scientific standpoint, the right conversation with our physician. Like, this kind of credibility is priceless, but I think is one of the North Star if we want to continue to become partner and considered a partner for our healthcare system of our physician when they have to treat their patients. Thank you.
Jamie?
Yeah, very well put. I think very similarly, putting the patient first, first as everything that we do at J&J as well, it really behooves us to make sure that we create a compliant way to develop content with speed and agility. Ultimately, we're trying to engage our external stakeholders so that they have access to very impactful, scientifically robust evidence. And when they have access to that information in a way that they can consume it, it really does ensure the safe and effective use of our products for the patients that will benefit the most. And the faster we do that and get them that information, the greater impact we'll have on our patients.
Very well said. Wow.
Very similarly, of course, the patient is our North Star. And I truly believe that if we're doing the right thing for the patient, there is usually a compliant way forward. And I think, a really great role that we can play is to be the conduit between patient and health authorities. So if we figure out the right way to help patients to reach to patients, and we get that data, I think we can feed that back to the health authorities so then they can then help the industry on a broader scale.
Thank you. Thank you. Before I let you go, while we've been talking, we've been getting a lot of questions from the audience, and I at least want to pick up one question and get your perspective. The question was, what do we do for global to local, right? So a lot of times we create content in the global level, but as it gets down at the country level, right, a lot of times we are duplicating efforts. A lot of times the effort which has been put in upfront does not get to be realized, right? So any thoughts, what can we do more on the global to local pieces, especially, right, as a lot more efficiency perhaps needs to be realized. Any thoughts, anyone?
I may start. Like, one point of consideration is that the customer engagement is happening at the local level. 99% is happening at local level. So the role of the global team is to really ensure that the customer engagement is happening in a strategic framework for the brand narrative, considering the key message, and then, most important, that they can provide key element to the market to then leverage on these elements for the local adaptation. So again, like the market, they can really deliver the last mile of the customer engagement, but the strategic framework, the way in which we can really agree on the strategic objective, the way we want to measure the engagement with the customer, they should come from the global from the global brand team. And another opportunity, of course, is to share best practice across different markets, possibly leveraging on intelligent content library that makes easier for different markets to have access to different content and to build their local, content based on what another market has been doing. That's a bit like the overall strategic approach. We are not there yet, but we are working. I think this is a common challenge, a common opportunity across different pharma industries.
Jamie, Mo, any thoughts from your side?
Well, we don't currently. We're not doing the global approvals. I'm sitting within the U.S. framework, but I think what Vincenzo said around having a global strategy and a global messaging map and ensuring that there's sort of worldwide alignment around, the clinical benefits that are coming from our clinical studies and our real world evidence is aligned to all of the regional strategies is definitely critical and something we work on. I think the next level would be to determine if there's some sort of common thread for accelerating global, claims and things of that nature, knowing that there's such variation in what you can do or can say within the different areas, right? Like compliance rules are different depending on where you are in the world, and product information can be different as well. So there are obviously going to be limitations. We don't have the same indications approved in Japan that we do in the US. So there will be slight variations depending on what we have approvals for everywhere. But I definitely think from the strategy and the main messaging and having alignment globally on those things is critical.
Yeah, if anybody has figured out how to do this perfectly, I would love to learn from them because we have so many variables here, right? There's, each affiliate has different patient needs, different patient focus, and then also the rules and regulations are different. So I think from a global perspective, the most we can do is find the lowest common denominator, both from a regulation and a patient need perspective, and then leave some flexibility in those pieces for for the affiliates to alter it as they need to make it appropriate for their patient and for the regulators. So it's a continuous learning experience. And maybe that will be next year's session. If somebody has perfected it, I would love to learn from them.
There you go. I'm taking notes for That's true. Now, with that, as we draw to a close, I just want to sincerely thank you, panel members, Vincenzo, Jamie. You've been awesome. It's been a very insightful discussion. I really enjoyed. And as they say, right, when you're having fun, you don't realize how fast the time passes. But thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate that. Audience members, for more such insightful discussion in medical affairs, I request you to head to the experience zone we've set up on applications of GenAI in medical affairs and join our roundtable discussions here. But thank you for your time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.